All right, we're live now. Welcome. Last day of Netdev Conf. This presentation is on Netpen IO by Eyal Birger. Is an itch. He was trying to solve his problems, and I find this fascinating tool that we'll probably end up using. Eyal, you want to say any intro?
No, let's watch the video.
All right, so I'm going to start the video now, and then we'll come back for the Q&A. Please post your questions on.
Hi, today I'd like to share Netpen, which is a visual editor and API for network environments script generation. The original incentive for creating this project was a bug that we were debugging on our system, where we had a point-to-point IPsec connection that was dropping large UDP packets when the packets were larger than the tunnel's MTU. In order to recreate the scenario and simulate it, in order to fix it, I created a network environment using bash script that looked something like the following setup. I created 4 network namespaces, A, B, router, and C, and I would pass packets from A to C, where B and C would be connected through an IPsec tunnel. And indeed, what happened was that traffic coming from A towards C was dropped when it arrived to the XFRM interface due to a bug in the XFRM interface implementation. In order to recreate this scenario, I had to create the network namespaces and configure them, enable forwarding for each one, create vet devices, assign addresses to each one, and configure routing between the different interfaces. I wanted to have a very simple XFRM configuration without an IKE daemon, so using directly IPF XFRM commands, and configure the MTU for the router, etc. And also keep in mind that MTU needs to be flushed so that routing cache wouldn't affect my testing, etc., etc. And this was a fun endeavor to have and to write these scripts, but it was also cumbersome and took some time to create. And I based, and this is when I based my configuration and scripts on previous work. And so I realized this was a pretty common scenario where newcomers or experienced developers need to create complex network topologies, and they usually tailor bash scripts to create such scenarios, creating network namespaces, connecting them through vet devices. And I took a look at the Netdev archives and saw that there were thousands of mails creating different setups and passing them along through the emails, and also hundreds of commit messages, including IPnet and IP links, calls, etc. And this is a pretty common approach for recreating network scenarios. And so I thought there was maybe a better way or a simpler way in order to share and create these environments and save up some time. First of all, I did it for myself, and I hope this could be useful for others as well. And so the goals of this project, it's a new project, and the goals of this project is basically to have something that's easy to use and create these kinds of environments. And hopefully we'll take away some of the mechanical stuff, such as routing and address assignment, while still supporting advanced features like tunneling, VRFs, etc., etc. And ideally would facilitate collaboration and will allow people to share their network infrastructure and network scenarios easily. I started out with an API-first approach, where, for example, let's take the following simple scenario where we have 3 network namespaces, A, router, and B. And we would like to be able to pass packets between them. And so I'd need to create these network interfaces and create VET devices connecting these network namespaces and assign these addresses and routes. And I started out with a simple YAML-based configuration like the following, where it's a simple list of items, each item representing some network construct that we would like to create. For example, a network namespace. I can define all these 3 namespaces. I can define a subnet, in this case, notice that although each namespace is using a /25, I'm defining a /24 subnet, and the system would partition it according to the routing constraints. And I can define the virtual Ethernet devices that connect between the different namespaces and assign each end of the VET device to the subnet that I defined. When I create this YAML script, I can run it through the API using an HTTP post request, okay, sending it to an endpoint on this project, and I would get this bash script that's ready to run on a VM or a new or a fresh Linux install, and it would create this topology, meaning it would create the relevant namespaces, including configuring forwarding, setting up MTU, expiration, configuring the VET interfaces, assigning them addresses, and configuring the routes between them, keeping the order correct so that the routing and the address assignment, everything is done so that it would actually work. Currently, the system supports a small amount or small subset of the vast features of the Linux networking stack, but it does include basic features such as network namespaces and virtual Ethernet, as well as bridging, VLAN scenarios, teaming, XFRM configurations and different tunnelings, as well as virtual routing and forwarding. This YAML approach is nice and fun, but I thought it would be nice and easier to be able to configure these scenarios visually, and so created a visual site for defining these scenarios. You can see it in Netpen.io. And so this is Netpen. You can see her examples for all different constructs that I've shown before. And we can create an example scenario like the one I demonstrated. For example, we can create 3 namespaces, A, B, and C. For each one, I can define whether it allows forwarding or not, and whether I would like to have a net server running on it. I can create the virtual Ethernet devices, for example, A to B and B to C, and I can create the subnet that I would like to configure on these devices. For example, let's pick up /24, and now I can assign the virtual Ethernet devices to their respective namespaces and assign the subnet to the virtual Ethernet devices. And so I have this simple routing topology, and I can see here that the subnet was partitioned to /25 segments because there's no direct connectivity or no direct broadcast domain between these devices. If we wanted to have a bridging scenario, we can create a network bridge. For example, and assign it to the B namespace, attach it to the relevant devices, and now we have a bridging scenario and everything is in the same broadcast domain. Another example is creating tunnel devices or tunneled scenario where I can create a tunnel device. Which would need a separate subnet for the encapsulated traffic. So let's pick something from the 10.0 area. And I can now assign, I can pick the tunnel type. For example, I can use XFRM, an XFRM tunnel, and then assign it with the subnet and define which link devices I would like to use. For example, let's connect A and C. And now we can see here that we have a tunneling scenario where A and C have a tunnel devices which are routable, and the traffic flows through this route here via the B namespace. Once I've defined my scenario, I can download either a bash script or a YAML file, and I can save it on my machine, and I can spin up a VM. Spin up a VM and run the resulting script. I can see here that it prints out all the relevant devices and addresses, and I can go to any of the namespaces. For example, let's go to the A namespace, and now I know that I have 10.0.129, and it's connected through IPsec to 10.0.0.1. So for example, I can ping 10.0.0.1, and I can see here that traffic is indeed passed. And if I mute this and go to the B namespace, I can see here that the traffic is indeed passing using IPsec, using ESP, and doesn't pass in plain text between these interfaces. For collaboration, we can use download a YAML file, as we've seen before. I can download the YAML as it is, and share this on the mailing list or in any other way. And also, I can create a link and send it over, and it would recreate the exact same scenario. Under the hood, this is using a Python-based backend, which does the address configuration naively by separating every routable device and assigning addresses based on layer 2 and layer 3 connectivity based on the device types. And it does a simple routing based on shortest path selection. Currently, this is a very naive approach, but it seems to work pretty well for most simple scenarios. The front end is a simple React application. This project is all open sourced and located in the GitHub, and you can clone it and run it locally using Docker. Running Netdev would recreate the entire scenario on your local machine. If Future work. I think it would be nice if we'd be able to add eBPF to this. For example, being able to define eBPF programs right there on the UI and attach them to different hooking points like XDP and TC. Being able to define TC filters, net filter rules, create advanced policy routing configurations, lightweight tunneling, device types, etc. So I think there's a vast list of network features that could be usable in this kind of project. Thank you.
All right. You can hear me? Yeah. Okay. I guess we wait for the applause to stop. Can you hear me? Oh, yeah, they can hear me. Okay. Eyal, you can hear me as well, right?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. All right, so let's see. Okay, let's start with the raised hand first, and then we'll go to Alex. Alex has a bunch of questions. Okay, I'm going to hand the mic to David Arhan. Okay, David, you're on.
Hey, so yeah, this is pretty cool. I've done a lot of that myself, like for creating self-tests. I have basically a library shell script that I start off with that does a create namespace, connect namespace, the exact same things you're doing here. So yeah, this is definitely a useful tool. And what I really like is that you're generating shell scripts so that people can see all the commands and configuration. Have you thought about creating like library functions for the grunt work of doing the create namespace and things like that? So it just simplifies the code a little bit so that when someone's trying to analyze what's going on behind the scenes, it's very transparent.
Yeah, definitely. What I try to do is, first of all, to have these scripts as self-contained as possible. So it will be a single script that you can just download to a single machine and run it. And yeah, I thought when maybe for complex scenarios such as creating tunnels and configuring XFRM policies, etc., maybe some helper functions would be useful. But playing with it, it seems that having all the rules spread out so that you can adapt them to tweak them to some specific scenario is more convenient than having some generic library. So what I thought was what I started out was the exact same point of having these scripts that I just tweak. So I figured the tool should create the flattest, simplest scripts that you can tweak to some scenario, to some weird scenario.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, as it is, it looks, like I said, it looks really useful. And the visualization of connecting all the nodes versus me drawing something on a piece of paper and then running connect namespace, create namespace, connect perf. So yeah, nice job.
Cool.
Agreed. All right. Okay, so next question is from Alex. Alex has a bunch of questions. I don't know which one I should post. There's a comment. All right, let's try this one first. Sorry, actually, this is referring to Arachne that was presented in Sol.
Yeah. Yeah, I see two questions on first on Arachne and class networks, and so I think I considered adding this kind of example. I think it could be done and could be extended to support this kind of topology. I haven't got around to doing it, but it should be possible. It's not tailored to that scenario, so the code is probably not that efficient, and the routing code there is pretty naive. So would maybe need some tailoring, but it's probably some scenario that can be supported. With regards to the other questions on whether a bridge could be replaced by a hardware switch, I suppose whatever construct that you can create with IPTool, you can create with this. You can create a higher level abstraction and just define it. And if we can have a backend that just creates the appropriate IP tool or ETH tool or any other tool that you want, you can customize this.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing with bridges would be if you create a broadcast loop, like you have to prepare for all that kind of outcome. If you're connecting a lot of containers on a
Yeah. This is definitely not won't support the large scale thing. It's very naive using a very simple shortest path kind of routing. I considered one option is to add, for example, is instead of using static routes and configuring them in the bash script, having the bash script configure some routing daemon on each namespace. That could also be useful. So you can have a subnet that has static configuration, or a subnet or a different subnet that propagates its routes using BGP or other routing protocols. And the bash script would just create the appropriate configuration for a routing daemon running on each NetNS or something like that. So that's one option that I considered. But it's all very naive at the moment, so I wouldn't create large networks using this tool yet.
Yeah, I mean, you could always use it as a starting point, generate the scripts, build the GUI, generate the scripts, and then customize it some more by hand. Because already just by making sure the scripts are named correctly, because typically when I do something like this, I would just cut and paste VI, and I'll screw up something, the wrong veth port, and this already takes away that human error.
Yeah.
So there's another question. There's a question from Ankit. There you go. And by the way, anybody whose question comes on the stage here, if you want to just raise your hand and I'll bring you on the stage as well. If you want to clarify or add to it.
Okay, so I see a question on how difficult it would be to create VM containers. Well, everything is the backend is Python based, and there's classes for creating any kind of items. So creating a Docker container or a VM using some tool that you can run through Bash shouldn't be too hard to add. Running scripts on physical machines, I suppose it's the same thing. Currently,
let me post Eyal, let me post the questions, and then because other people probably can't see if you read off that. So just whatever I post. But out of curiosity, do you really want to go this far? The beauty, I think, of this tool is its simplicity. In other words, right. The fact that, look, I don't want to run Docker for this. Okay, I'm sorry, but I always use network namespaces because they're so simple, they're less resource intensive, they test a very specific purpose. Does it make sense to even consider Docker VMs? I'm not sure. Maybe other people could chime into this. I want something simple. That's what I find this attractive, right? It doesn't try to have all the knobs under the sun because they look cool or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'll post the next question. Is from Martin. Yeah, somebody gives me a thumbs up. You can give me a thumbs down. I don't think there's a thumbs down. No, there's no thumbs down, unfortunately. Oh, all right. Okay, you can laugh at me. That's fine. So when they laugh, I guess they're disagreeing with me. Okay, next question. Yeah, that one. Can it generate scripts to run scenarios on physical machines?
On physical machines. So for simplicity, I ran everything inside network namespaces because that was the most useful environment that I figured would be used for testing stuff. And usually people wouldn't like to contaminate their actual hosts. But there's no technical limitation in that respect. It's just another knob to add, I guess. I think for continuing the thought that Jamal presented, I think for simplicity, I'm not entirely sure whether this is desirable for such tool. That said, it's not a big technical. There's no big gap in order to implement this.
So, I mean, yeah, simplicity is important. I think there's too many tools for the people who want complexity. They already exist.
What for actually configuring a physical machine, I would suppose some more tools like Netplan and things like this that actually are used to configure hosts would be more appropriate. But that's just.
So I missed. I guess maybe I wasn't paying close attention. This tool will also boot up a VM for you after this with the script.
No, at the moment. No, at the moment it just it creates a bash script that creates namespaces and configures them and configures tunnels between them, networks and devices inside them, etc. But it doesn't deal with the host at all. It starts off with some Linux machine and creates the network namespaces. I to my understanding and from what I've seen, this is the common or a very common scenario for replicating different network scenarios. So starting out with some Linux machine and running IPNetNS for creating some environment.
Right. Just to read off the chat, I guess I wasn't paying attention to the chat. David says yes, that's key to make it a standalone script. Would have been nice probably to add. Okay, now I'm going into feature creep. Would have been nice to put up not libvat but LKVM and maybe pop up a couple of windows. But that could be an extension, right? LKVM is very lightweight, or something like Firecracker instead of all this heavyweight VM types. But feature creep, that could be an extension somebody wants, but shouldn't be the main access entry. Okay, next question is from Mikhail. Yeah.
Is it possible to import configuration into a current project so you could have a library of building blocks? You can import a YAML file. Just upload the YAML file and start off from there. It's possible. Once you have a YAML file, you can just upload it and then tweak it and download it back again. Also, you can save or create multiple scenarios environment, and they are saved in your browser's local storage. So you can have some sort of a small library that you can reuse and tweak, and it's stored on your local browser. Some enhancement in the future maybe would be to add some kind of backend that stores your scripts for use in different machines, etc. But I currently didn't find that really that useful. Maybe someone would like that. But currently you can store your reference scenarios or your library of scenarios in your local storage in the browser and just create new ones. And every time you create a scenario, like I showed in the demo, it is automatically stored and saved. So once you go back to the site, it would still you would still have it and you can reuse it.
I think maybe you could have a contrib directory of commonly used script that people could contribute to. Maybe like, okay, to Alex's earlier point, maybe I could contribute a class, one rack of or two racks of a class topology, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, there's a raised hand, and it's Mikhail. Okay, there you go. Go ahead, Michael.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
What I meant was rather not only to take existing configuration and build something extra to it, but what I meant was rather being able to combine multiple configuration together and then possibly add some more glue, like have some library of building blocks, like two namespaces connected via a tunnel, and so on, so that you could have such non-trivial building blocks that you could glue together.
Yeah, that's definitely a possibility to add like something like use the examples like the examples that we have now like XFRM transport and bridging, etc. And you can just say, okay, I want the bridge and two network namespaces that are bridged and connected. Yeah, that's a possibility. I started making this as simple as possible. Let's see if it's usable, then maybe someone would like that.
Okay, thank you.
All right, I'm going to show the next question. It seems like there's an answer on. Someone is asking for a friend. Assuming this is something that, let's say, a distro that has deployed a broken IP route 2, which doesn't do some of the things. Do you check for errors, I guess, when you?
Currently, it's all very, very naive.
Yeah.
It's designed to take out the mechanical work of these configurations where you need to, as David Aronson said, that you need to jot down all the addresses and start segmenting stuff and creating the routes, etc. So to take out the mechanical stuff. It's not the point is keeping it simple and having simple scripts, and it's not supposed to be something that's, or currently not yet designed to be something that's robust or for production environment or handle some complex IP route problems. It's all very, very simple and trying to make it.
I think if you add anything, maybe is after every time you invoke a command, maybe check the exit code. That should be easy to automate, I think.
Yeah, can just run it with -e. I can add, just a project option where the bash scripts are run with exit on error or exit on, or maybe another useful option is running bash with -x. That would print out every command that it does, and this I found.
Yeah, but it doesn't stop. It doesn't exit, right? It keeps going -x.
Yeah,
so
So this could be checkboxes in your project definition that can add that. That's nice. So you'd have exit on failure or print out all commands, and then your bash script would print out. And this could be useful. Yeah, I can definitely.
Yeah, I mean, it could be feature. What I'm probably suggesting is probably feature creep, but it's easy to generate. Just say, I could have it, for example, undo everything I did to that point, so I have a cleanup function that just it's everything I've created, and then I just go and look at the logs. I mean, those are simple things to automate, in my opinion.
Yeah, I haven't added cleanup functions at all yet.
Okay.
So it's all very, very trivial and naive at this point. It has a lot of. If this gains any traction, if people like this, then we can definitely.
I like it. I think David seems to like it. Okay, so there you go. You get a thumbs up, and there was a response to that question from maintainer of IP route 2. But although he called it IP route 3. All right, next question. So this is a suggestion again from Alex, is saying it's a comment more than anything that if you deploy on a VM, it's easier to save your config for when you boot up the VM again, it's automatically set up. Okay, any more questions? Yeah, there is a question from Ido. There you go.
With namespaces with VRFs instead of actual namespaces. It does support VRFs, meaning you can, inside the network namespace, you can create VRF devices and assign members to these VRF devices. There's an example where you can see 3 network namespaces that are routed through, that you have a router and 2 namespaces that are routed through that namespace, I think, or something like that. And there's a green-blue kind of separation where you have 2 VRFs with the same addresses that are routed through the same network namespace. So and the routing logic, that's very, very naive, as I said, but it is VRF aware, meaning that it will only route or create the routes according to the VRF configuration. So that's there, yes.
Okay, and in that regard, there's a comment. I don't know if you can see that. That too many tunnel devices do not properly work with VRF. So in this case, the VRF will be inside the network namespace. Yeah.
Okay.
Is that right? I mean, if you supported VRFs, would you put this inside the network namespace? And of course, if you want to come up on stage, Ido, I'll put you on. Otherwise, I'll just show your comment. Oh, this is a response to David. Okay, not to Eyal. And of course, here's Donald. He says he doesn't know why. And David says he does. All right. Okay. Any more questions? Anybody? Questions? Pick or queue up on the mic. We're about maybe 7-8 minutes earlier than the end of the session. Not meaning that we can stay just for the sake of staying. Okay, and there's a comment from Ido that's saying we use VRFs to emulate network namespaces. All right, I think if there's no more questions, I'm going to end it here. Any last words, Eyal?
No, I hope this would be used.
Absolutely, thanks for your contribution. This is, I think it's useful and it looks good. And I plan to try it out. And I'm sure there are other people, like I just saw from Ido, that he will also try it out. All right, I will, with that, let's just thank Eyal, and I can end the session. And we can be 5 minutes earlier.
Thank you.
Thanks.